All right, welcome to another episode of What Keeps Klaus Schwab Up Late at Night. And today we're going to be talking about the defense of Europe. So there was a session this morning that was recorded. I'm just going to play a couple of minutes of it and then share my thoughts about what's going on, what they're thinking about, all this kind of stuff. If you like this kind of thing, make sure and subscribe to this channel. We are on our way to 1,000 subscribers. So in today's video clip, of course, we have Matthew Kaminsky, who is the editor-in-chief of Politico, used to be an editor with the Wall Street Journal, and he's hosting this panel. And he's interviewing Andrzej Duda, which is the president of Poland. So we'll just cut to the first question that he is going to ask him.
Going forward. Now, I want to start maybe, since it is morning, maybe with a couple quick round questions for this group to get us going. And in a sentence or two, I want to ask each of you, in these grim times, what is the one thing that makes you hopeful? Maybe I can start with President Duda.
What makes us hopeful?
Hopeful. The one thing that gives you hope this year when you think about the future of Europe, the defense of Europe.
Absurd will never exist for a long time, in my opinion. So this situation is absurd. Yes, that was hard to imagine that. 70 years after the Second World War, yes, we will have war in Central Europe in full scale. This is something ridiculous, and that was very hard to believe when we received.
Okay, so he's not really answering the question, what is hopeful. So let's just fast forward to, I believe they asked him another question about the 23-minute mark, because they kind of cut him off as he wasn't very hopeful at all. So let's just go, here. Just skip ahead here.
What might happen at this Ramstein meeting of defense ministers later this week in terms of arming? Have we turned the corner in terms of giving the Ukrainians more offensive weapons, or not?
5 days ago, I announced our decision about Leopard tanks. Yes, one company of Leopard tanks. It's about.
Okay, hopefully you can bear with this a little bit. He's talking about Germany supplying ammunition to Ukraine as well as Poland. And I believe he mentions that he supplies, or is going to be supplying, 14 tanks. This is kind of a dangerous thing to discuss, because they talk about Russia's president, Putin, in this forum, and they're talking about how bad he is and all this kind of stuff, and supplying weapons and all this to Ukraine. And I think if it's not official, it's pretty tough to talk about this stuff. So I think this is why this gentleman, president of Poland, ends up in what I call an echo chamber, where it's going to sound like after a while that he is in an echo chamber and he can't get out of it. So just listen to this and hopefully you can bear with it.
14 tanks. We really decided to send it to Ukraine, but we hope, and we are trying to organize a bigger support for Ukraine. So we hope that there is a few partners, a few allies who will give tanks to Ukraine, Leopard tanks, Challenger tanks from Great Britain. Yes, and so we hope that producer of the tanks, Germany, will also
talk about being put on the electric chair. He is very uncomfortable talking about this because better believe there are other people watching this. And for him to start talking about maybe Great Britain is going to be supplying some tanks. I hope the manufacturing company in Germany steps up to the plate, all this kind of stuff. And he begins a stutter like I've never seen anybody stutter. At the beginning, he's not like that. He was not like that. But as soon as you ask him about supplying ammunition to Ukraine, I think he's above his pay grade because he hasn't talked to his people yet about what he's about to say. So it's just kind of interesting. So let's just listen, and then I'll share my thoughts.
They participate in this, in my opinion, very good idea. I was asked by Volodymyr Zelensky for that military support a few times. He said to me, Andrzej, we need modern tanks. Because it's the only way to stop the Russian invasion. Now, we sent to Ukraine our Krab howitzers, yes, very modern and very efficient. We sent to Ukraine more than 260 our tanks, but old ones. But old tanks, we had those tanks from USSR, yes.
So they sent old tanks from Russia that they had. They probably captured or somehow maybe they recalibrated the tanks, fixed them up, all this kind of stuff. But they were older tanks, basically obsolete tanks that they sent to Ukraine as help and support. They didn't send their best. They sent World War II tanks,
but that moment, it was half a year ago. Yeah, it was in March, as I remember. They needed those tanks.
Well, being that we're almost in February, that's almost a year ago. So
that moment, that was immediate need. And so we decided to send this. You know, it was more than we afford. It was more than we afford.
So these used tanks that were basically decommissioned was more than what Poland could afford to send to Ukraine. So they're sending them garbage, basically crap tanks. And I don't think Zelensky liked that.
We hadn't those tanks in our reserves. That was those tanks were we took those tanks out of our military units, yes, regular military units. But we understood that this is you know issue of
Oh, this is painful. Like I tried watching this whole video and my goodness gracious, great balls of fire. It is very difficult to listen to these guys speak because they don't have any notes, kind of like me. I don't have any notes right now. But you asked me a simple question like, what's the hope for Europe? I think the hope is that if you're talking about the war, that the war would stop, that we can agree to disagree, and then we can move on and start rebuilding Ukraine. We can make Ukraine better, and we can start building awesome business buildings, infrastructure, railways, all kinds of stuff. Let's get our civilization rocking and rolling. Instead, it's like we we sent our crap tanks to Zelensky, and hopefully that's good because we couldn't even afford those. So this is the kind of double talk that I would think that Zelensky's like, these guys are crazy, and I'm depending on these guys. Like, man, I would run away from these guys as far as humanly possible if I was President Zelensky. Anyways, it goes on like that. I listened to one of the other guys from China. Same thing. They're talking about human capital. They're not talking about you or I as human beings. We are human capital. And he talks about real estate, the blood transfusion of real estate. Like, they need to have better translators. That's for sure, because these guys are not up to par when it comes to translations. And a lot of these guys are speaking in different languages, and then you have English translators. They're not doing a good job. Anyways, what do you think? Are you watching anything? Is there a video that you know that I should talk about? Because there's a ton of stuff going on right now. Is there something in particular that you think I should talk about, that I should address on this channel? Feel free to comment. I always appreciate your comments. We are on our way to 1,000 subscribers. So if you've watched this video up until this point, please subscribe. Continue subscribing, and I'll see you in another video. Bye for now.